Motherfucking noise. All right. Good evening, everyone. Tonight's space is a mini sessions, not a webinar. This conversation is simply to explain the purpose, flow, and protection standards of the Autochthonous Indigenous Alignment Ordinance framework, also known as the IAO. This is not competition with any one movement or identity work. This is about institutional alignment and intellectual property protection. The IAO operates through licenses and stewardship standards under the Autochthonous trademark. Tonight, we're answering four simple questions. Why does this framework exist? Who is designed for? What is the Indigenous Alignment Ordinance? And when and how should people engage with it? To understand why IAO exists, we have to understand the classification of history of our people. Over centuries, our people were misclassified and reclassified as colored, Negro, Black, Indian, Moor, Freedman, African American.
Of preserving indigenous culture.
Three labor shifts into political, legal, and academic systems. But those classifications does not erase our indigenous autochthonous identity. For example, in 1924, Walker-Plecker Racial Integrity Act and Virginia reclassification many original indigenous identity people as colored Overtown, Color Town in Miami. That single administration action changed how thousands of families were documented in public records, the shotgun houses. In the early 1900s, the foundationalists, of course, Franz Broswell, changed the racial biologically theory to reshaping, the autonomy of our people by reclassification. In 1941, Mel Herkovich reframed academic discussions about around Black identity and African diaspora culture. That's where you get your study and indoctrinations from. Only 14 to 300 years of study. Only into doctrinate into you are slaves. But no, it was just sharecroppers and other stuff that happened through this process. But this was a reclassification. Just imagine how many people was in that construction period with the books, with the $5 Indian Act, the Dow's Act, you know. So then in 1988, the term African American became worldwide adapted in the public and political disclosure atmosphere. And over the time, identity label changed through legal, forcible reclassification through fraudulent due diligence and quadrily movements within the system that was mislying from the very beginning. Academically, interpretations and political language. But the people remain the same. Aboriginal people, autochthonous people of America, American autochthonous people, indigenously, aboriginally speaking, or abridging or ridging people. The history misalignment does not abstract, but it is rooted in forced assimilation, classification systems, and bureaucracy of that classification system, land dispossessions, and the erasure of Aboriginal people of Turtle Island, American. The dark colored copper races of people of this land have always been here. But history over time and often rename us instead of recognizing us. Who? The Indigenous Alignment Ordinance framework is for the people who recognize the history classification issue. What structure alignment with Indigenous identity and development? Developer and development, smart city infrastructures, eco planets, sustainable living, resource based alignments. Want unlawful institution participations. This includes individuals who identity today as Black Americans, African Americans, and indigenous descendants, and historically misclassified communities. Autochthonous indigenous people. The goal is alignment, not division. What? Now let's talk about what the Indigenous Alignment Ordinance actually is. IAO is a private institution alignment framework built around autochthonous trademark. It is designed to support indigenous institution development, economic corporations, housing incentives, education programs, and cultural preservation and preservation. In history and functional through intellectual property licenses and licensing and governing standards. That's the meaning of trademark ownership. The term Autochthonous American is protected indigenous intellectual property. The participation is programmed. With that destination must flow alignment standards. These standards exist to protect elders teaching historical affidavits giving through the assigned part chiefs and elders and grandmasters, institutional integrity and community trust. Alignment standards, stewardship duty. Alignment standards means stewardship duty. Participation requires stewardship duty, also called SD. Stewardship duty includes administrative accountability, fiduciary standards, responsible reputations of the autochthonous identity, and participation in partial terms and practical terms. Individuals may teach, organize events, or fundraise under alignment only after verification. This protects the community from misuse of identity, fraudulent claims, and unauthorized commercial use. Non-alignment use or a non-alignment use of the autochthonous destination. Elders issues affidavits governing language. And commerce or fundraisings is considered non-alignment representation. Let me just go over that one more time for clarity and understand alignment standards, stewardship duties. Participation requires stewardship duties, also called SD. Stewardship duties include administrative accountability, fiduciary standards, responsible reputation of the autochthonous identity, and in practical terms, individuals may teach, organize events, or fundraisers under alignment only after verification. This protects the community from misuse of identity, okay, fraudulent claims, okay, unauthorized commerce uses and commercial use. Unauthorized commercial use. Non-alignment use of the autochthonous destination. Elders issue affidavits, governance language, in commerce or fundraisers, and fundraising is considered non-alignment representation. When? Alignment happens through a structural license pathway. The pathway includes several participation tiers designed to match different levels of involvement. Some people simply want education and historical understanding. Others want participation in governance, decisions, and discussions, infrastructure planning, smart cities, tiny home projects, off grid living, farms, surpassing seven generational thinking, housing initiatives, and community development projects. The system, therefore, includes multiple alignment levels so participation can scale responsibly. At the highlight level, participants may support large scale infrastructure development and long term institutional planning. Hello. But every step in the process follows administration and verification and stewardship standards. The purpose of the framework, the purpose of the IAO framework is simple. It creates structural pathways for indigenous institutional development. That includes sustainable housing initiatives. So when I say sustainable living for all people and surpassing 7 generational thinking, I really do mean that. So sustainable housing initiatives and cooperative economic programs and educational network and cultural restoration tours are restorations. This is not about creating another identity debt or debate. It is also creating systems that support real world sustainable for our people. And I want you to understand this, you guys, from one of the trademark holders on the floor. I understand my people, illness and sickness. Trust me, I'm surrounded by crazy people. In that light, and that's lifting the light, there's a magnitude and duty standard that things just will get ugly based on the outside influencers and outside invaders. And that's why there are other magnitudes that we have to understand when the people have done their grandmasters and they're getting their downloads and readers from their shamanic roles and oracles within an alignment affairs of due diligence that we are claiming and talking about of classification of our people. As an American Indian and the process of registry and to the involvement in institution, licensing, contracting, developing, infrastructuring, and doing our monetizing system and our monetizing system process through this commercial affairs that we are living within this process of society now, which is a system that is really misaligned, especially for my people. Because there won't be a such thing as a Bronzeville, a Overtown, or a Color Town, or Tulsa, right? Black Wall Street. Because we were already had established these many years ago during our mound infrastructure. And the disrespect and due diligence goes under these guidelines of IP protections framework. That's a little educational stewardship process and doing our due diligence as we go to school, as we enroll at a job, and we pay taxes, as we do rent, but don't even get nothing from it after 20 or 45 years. As mom, dad, or papa and grandma passed away and people scam and fraud and things of this nature, and through a misaligned system that forced behavior characteristics, I'm just going to stay there. So, institution protection. Because the term Autochthonous American is protected by trademark and frameworks, also serve as an important role in intellectual property protection. That protection erasures lawful brand use, integrity of elder knowledge, and consistency in public representation. And also the due diligence that I put together with our framework, isonomia, smart city infrastructure, which is isonomia, city of justice. Smart city infrastructure I put together years ago, actually, in the process and during my story and event and due diligence of this process of how we do our alignment affairs. Now, there is Ops of America, as I was explaining, war on indigenous people and agent provocateurs. I have explained this to you, SADOPS, on the young generation that participate in those agent provocateurs who are self-identified. Now it gets really, really, really crazy because now they 3D printing like Face Off the movie. There are faces of melanin people to look like you and not being you at all. The $5 Indian Act went blessed of identity and fraudulent activities and criminal activities as well, through genocidal activities as well. You are experiencing and seeing this for firsthand experience as they are entering World War III. So, this is to protect the lawful brand use and integrity of our elder knowledge and consistency in public reputation and representation. This prevent confusions and protection work of the people who built the foundation before us. Let me close with this. This is not about telling anyone who they are. It's not about creating alignment pathways for those who already recognize deep history of our people. The Indigenous Alignment Ordinance exists to move that conversation to theory into infrastructure. From identity discussion to institutional building. And from misclassification to alignment. If you want to learn more about systems in full details, we will cover the full framework during the up and coming webinar next Saturday, the 21st of March. I think. Yeah. Tonight, space was simply to explain the why, who, what, and when behind the IAO, Indigenous Autochthonous and Indigenous Alignment Ordinance. Thank you guys. One love.